Hi everybody, my name is David and this is All Things Sacred. This isn't the start of the sheets yet, the videos where I'm going to talk about the various layers that block one from realizing their true self. I am going to get to those, but I wanted to make this, at least this one, if not a few more videos here in between the Devi Mahatmyam series and then the series that is going to be coming next, because I've given a little bit of retrospection to some of the ways in which I've been presenting the information that I'm sharing, and a little bit of it may seem a bit harsh. I did talk in the beginning how one doesn't need to be completely ascetical. They don't need to not enjoy the beauty of this world. And in the last video, I talked a little bit about death at the end, and I said how death is a beautiful thing, and this is very much true. And how one has to look past the play of Maya and in their life. And this is also true. One can't become so engrossed and entrapped in the play of Maya that they forget that there is the transcendent being of the goddess, of God, of the true self that exists behind all things. That there's a truth behind all things. This is a very important thing to remember because it helps us to get through the day to day by having something that we can fall back on, something that's always there as something that becomes more and more real the more and more we connect to it, something that we can see more and more often, and it becomes a bastion of all good things in our life. That's the importance of that. But on the other side of things, one can't be so focused and entrapped by the glory of the divine being that is all of us, so much so that they forget the joys of the world, that they forget to have gratitude for the things that are going on in their life, and forget to share that love. They can come off as when you become unattached, you don't have as much sorrow associated with the ups and downs of the people in your life or your own life, especially. That's the big thing, I think. But it's still important to be able to look at this play that's going on in our life and to play your part inside of it. Then you're able to actually, do your purpose. Because even if it is true that we are a divine and untouchable immortal being, that is the soul, and that's connected between all beings through the pure consciousness of God. Even all these lofty ideas, even if they're true, the point of this lofty being, that really isn't that lofty because it's a part of everyone, but just seems lofty from our common perspective. The point of this being's existence is to enjoy the play of Maya. And so if we are holding all of these ideas that and actually experiencing, if we are going into meditation, if we are going into our quiet space and experiencing these great things, and we come out into the world and we're not, we're not, at least a little charmed, we don't have to be completely entranced, but the world is beautiful and life is amazing, and our experiences with other people should be full of love. If we, not only from an internal place, it is true that the other person their perspective creates what they think of you, obviously. But, it doesn't mean that, so not everyone will, necessarily, so some people might think that when you're unattached and you're not, so engrossed in people's problems, it might not look like the love that they want, but, there is a warmth that can be expressed from a place of, understanding these greater things. This being, the personality that comes into it resembles the avatars of this cosmic consciousness, such as Christ and Krishna, who are very much loving characters who take in a lot of people in their lives and exude this great warmth and magnetism that just fills the space with goodness and happiness and joy. Because that's the point of this whole experience. following this path, coming to these lofty realizations. I keep saying lofty. Lofty is not the greatest term, but it's so much grander than our common perspective. Coming to these realizations is a great and wonderful thing, and it's a very exciting and new take on life. And there's a lot that's involved with coming to know a new perspective on our lives. But we can't forget that the point of all this is to experience bliss. That this brings us to bliss. This bliss isn't just a bliss that is stuck in the realm of the absolute. This bliss transcends that, as it must, and comes into the world of relativity. And we're able to share that bliss that we find in the absolute with the relative experiences of our life. This is also important because you don't just jump straight to these, transcendent states that I'm talking about. It's almost as though, I'm talking a little bit retrospection, at least for the Devi Mahatmyam series, the Chandi series, that, in that series, I almost feel like I gloss over a little bit all the steps that take to get there, because if one tries to just, see things from the transcendent perspective without being mature enough, without being, prepared, then that will come back to bite them in the butt. It'll turn around on them, and their experiences will, even if they were true and real, without the backing, without the necessary experiences to back it up, to prepare one for these realizations will appear and they'll disappear instead of appearing and then persisting in a person's life. And so that's very important to know, because when one just that's the problem. They'll disappear from a person's life because a person won't be prepared to really understand what it means intellectually. They'll come out of these samadhi type experiences, and they'll come back into their relativity. They'll go into absolute experiences, and they'll come back into their relative experience. But because they aren't mature in their experiences in the relative enough to translate it into their life, it'll be as though they'll take this absolute wisdom, they'll try to apply it oftentimes with words in their daily life, and they'll be met with confusion or sometimes even anger from people around, and they'll see their experiences as no good, and they'll throw it away. They'll have an experience of absoluteness, but they won't be able to express it to anyone else, and so it seems like it's nonsense. And they end up, it ends up pushing people away from their path. And so it's important to go through a lot of development, that one has to realize that the universe is going to force us to go through a lot of development. Once we start to work on ourselves spiritually, when we try to, really understand our true self, the play of Maya is going to throw upon you karma, all the karma that if you're going to reach toward liberation, you're going to need to burn off, all this baggage that you have. Suddenly all of as you quiet your mind, as you sit in meditation, quiet your mind and start to, really come to this place of just perspective beyond thinking, for at least a few moments, as flashes of it. Then in your life, these flashes in meditation will suddenly have caused a spark that will, even though you're not worried about these issues and problems will present themselves to you, and you'll suddenly have to deal with them, almost as though this Maya, this play, this divine consciousness, this divine intelligence is kind of testing your sincerity, is saying like, okay, you have had these realizations, you have had glimpses at something a little bit more open, a little bit more inclusive as a way of being for you, but how true is that? Do you really have the understanding to stand up against the tests that life is going to throw at you. And so you have to keep facing these tests over and over so that we can, clear out the shadow aspects of ourselves, so that we can, recognize our engrossment in this play, so that we can see the part that we've been playing and really like step outside of it so that we can play it a little bit better. The point of these realizations, the point of this path is not so that we can step outside of life entirely. Yes, I have talked about how you are supposed to see beyond this life, but you will always come back to the relative after a meditation experience. Even if we're trying to make life into a constant meditation, into a constant prayer, it still is going to be relative based on whatever it is you're necessarily doing. And that's what I wanted to talk about for the last part of this video. Even though the video is choppy, whatever, you could just hear me, you could just listen. Is how to turn your life into a constant prayer, how to turn your life into a constant meditation. And this isn't new information. You can find many great people out there who share this this type of thinking. Om Swami was the one who I heard it from years ago, and it really stuck with me, and I want to share this kind of idea, and I've set up why it's important, because there has to be a way that these relative experiences are transcended into the absolute realm, and the absolute experiences are transcended into the relative ones that we'll have to go through day in and day out, because we can't just sit there with our eyes closed in meditation all day long. We have to come out sometime. But as has many people express, we want to keep this state with us. But how do we keep these absolute states with us? And that is by constant prayer and meditation. What does this mean? It means turning every action that you do into a way of worshiping the divine in you, and or whatever concept rather you have of the divine. You can see that this divine being is in all things. So every action that you take can be done with an amount of consciousness where you remember the divinity of what it is that you are doing. One of the greatest examples I've seen of this was in person, besides experiences that, I tried to practice on my own, that I've seen from other people, was back when I was Orthodox. A couple times I visited monasteries, and in the monasteries, everything is, very quiet, first off, and everyone is able to focus on exactly what it is they're doing. They have projects and stuff that they have to take care of. They have to upkeep the monastic grounds, but there's no distractions of outside cars, no music or television. They're just focused on what it is they're doing, and then they intersperse this throughout the day with constant prayers. There's a lot of services that the monks go to, and it brings them back to this remembrance of God at all times, of the divine at all times. And they're able to more easily take this into their day-to-day. They'll go to prayer, and then they'll have to go cook a meal. So they'll be remembering the divine as they cook the meal, and they'll feel as though it's an act of service for what they're doing. They don't get paid for being monks. They get housing and food, but they have to work. It's a constant work. It's a constant process in any monastery. I went to the Kali Mandir Ramakrishna Ashram in Laguna Beach, California, and the same thing. It's a pleasure for them to sweep the grounds because they're doing a service, an offering to Mother Divine, and we can be the same way. When you are able to offer everything as a service and not seek any gain for yourself, the money that you're making or the work that you're doing, one should always see this as kind of like as though your divine self has given you the order to do this. And then you'll take no, or if not your divine self, then your goddess or your god. And then you'll take no anger from it because all you want to do is please that divine core of yourself or your divine mother or your divine father. And everything you do then becomes a joy. You realize that this divine being is sitting inside you, and you take a shower, and it's like you're cleansing the exterior bodily temple, the physical temple of your divine love. Or any housework that you do can be seen as you cleaning the temple grounds of whatever church lies in your heart, whatever temple lies in your heart. So those are two easy ways of recalling meditative states and prayerful states throughout the day. Is one, by interspersing the day with prayer. Even when they would eat meals in the monasteries, they would eat in silence except for one of the monks reading from either scripture or a holy book of some sort or another. And it really reminded one of the sacred gift that life is. This type of living inspires gratitude for all things. We become, we stop complaining and we become happy with the way things are in our relative life, whether they are easy or difficult. When we constantly remember divinity, then whether it's easy or difficult, it becomes a joy. It becomes a pleasure. It becomes a privilege and honor to be able to do dishes, to clean the floor, to do whatever it might be that you do on your day to day. And just personally, I really feel, relatively, I really feel that this is something that is very accessible. This isn't something that's far-fetched. This isn't something that, is unachievable. You can bring this gratitude and this joy and this bliss into your life. This is how constant remembrance can be found. One last technique that I want to share from the school that I used to go to, and this isn't necessarily from the school. There are certain traditions where before prayer they will wash themselves, and I found this to be an exceedingly beautiful technique for washing away the dross of our stress and all our day-to-day interactions, and filling that space with something better. The technique is very simple. You would just wash the hands and then the forehead and the hair, and beards if you're male or if you have a beard. And then you would wash the eyes, the ears. You take a little water into the mouth and spit it out a few times, and into the nose, and then wash the feet. And say some sort of prayer with it. O divine self, take from me the darkness of my hands and their actions, and fill it instead with your light. Or fill it instead with the light of the cosmos. Whatever, it could be as focused on a deity as you want, or as unfocused on a deity as you want, as cosmic as you want. But just by doing this, at appropriate times, keeping clean, and that's something that we're supposed to be doing now anyway, so that, kind of works. We can turn this, this hand washing into, our moments of prayer, even if this is all we get during the day. Even if we're not able to, make time for ourselves right now, some people don't have that privilege. We can turn these small moments of just washing our hands to the constant prayer that we have throughout our day, our constant reminder, our constant remembrance that there's a lot to be grateful for just by being alive and by experiencing the beauty of the day-to-day and the ups and the downs. So yeah, I think that kind of completes what I wanted to express. I hope you all are doing well. I posted on my Facebook that Nelson and I, we're not making hats right now, but we are making free cloth masks for donation for anyone who wants any. So you could go ahead and private message me if you would like one. Otherwise, keep well, stay safe, and have a great day. Love you all.